right, the ACC Tournament. It is finally March. Everyone's getting back into the groove. Last week of the regular season going into, or not regular season, but last week of the season before March Madness. Conference tournament week. Always exciting.
Yes.
We're breaking down the ACC now, and we'll kind of just start with teams that we think could be dark horses, maybe an upset in the making with the way the bracket plays out. Maybe a betting odd that you like, if you like a number that a team's getting or whatnot. But the ACC, Virginia and Florida State are the two favorites. They're right around that 225, 260 range, followed closely by North Carolina, and then Virginia Tech and Louisville are both under 1,000, followed by Georgia Tech, who's moved up recently. We'll start with you on the ACC this time, Nolan. If you want to talk about maybe a team that you think is going to win it, maybe someone you think gets upset early, and maybe a dark horse.
Yeah, guys. For the ACC, you got Virginia 1. Your number 2 is Florida State. Virginia Tech is 3. Georgia Tech is 4. And then if you want to look at the bracket, it goes on, so forth. But the reason why I gave you those 4 is because on the bottom you got Florida State and Virginia Tech. And then on the top you got Virginia and Georgia Tech. I really like the Georgia Tech team, guys. They're one of the best defensive teams in the ACC. They have 2 guys that actually are in the top 5 for steals per game. And Jose Alvarado, however you say his name, and then Jordan Usher. Both of them are averaging over 1.5 steals a game. And not only that, but Georgia Tech has Moses Wright, guys. This guy is a monster. He's almost averaging a double-double a game in points and rebounds. He's a power forward. This guy is great. If you haven't seen him play, tune in for the ACC tournament and watch him. I think you're going to see some big upsets over here. I like Virginia going to play Syracuse. Syracuse will beat North Carolina State. I think Virginia does beat Syracuse. It's going to be a lot closer game than a lot of people predict, but I think Georgia is going to be the first major upset of that. I think Georgia takes down Virginia, and I think they're going to see Florida State in the finals. On the bottom side of that bracket, I do like UNC beating the winner of Notre Dame and Wake Forest, and then I do like UNC beating Virginia Tech. I'm not a big fan of Virginia Tech this season. They don't have really a top scorer on their team. They're more of a well-rounded team. But North Carolina, they have their highs and their lows. That's the only issue I don't have them going to the finals, is because they're either hit or miss. And if they're playing bad, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose by a lot. So my big thing is I like them beating Virginia Tech and losing to Florida State. I have Florida State against Georgia Tech in the finals, and I have Georgia Tech winning. Georgia Tech was suspended last year from going into the ACC tournament. So I think this year they're going to win it.
That's interesting because they kind of came out of nowhere. They were in the kind of middle of the pack all season, and they kind of went on a win streak at the end there. Were able to secure that final top seed bye there, and then they got kind of a lucky top of the bracket with the way Virginia's been playing and avoiding some of the Cinderella is out of the ACC, like Duke and North Carolina, who always seem to do well. But I'll try not to talk about this in every conference tournament, but I always have one thing I remind myself come March in these one-and-done tournaments, and it's just coaching. I know it gets old. We've seen it so many times, like the Tom Izzo does well in March, even though he has a bad season with Michigan State, stuff like that. So I think obviously Duke and North Carolina are still going to be dangerous just because they have that coaching that can guide them in these one and done kind of emotional games. And then Virginia obviously has been it. With that being said, those are 3 teams that I'm not a huge fan of. I think North Carolina my favorite out of those 3, but I think the bottom half of that ACC bracket is going to be a little wild. It's going to be tough to get out of there. I think Florida State and Virginia Tech are happy they don't have to play on that second round with Louisville, North Carolina, possibly Duke mixed into the 4 teams in that second round in the bottom bracket. That's going to be dangerous. But out at the top, I am going to roll with Virginia. I do not like them. keep that in mind. But I don't really have too great a feeling about anyone else in that bracket. Syracuse is so inconsistent, but obviously they can make a run as well. And Georgia Tech, they've been outstanding. We'll see if that holds true. But I'll take Virginia out of the top of that bracket. And then you know how I feel about Florida State, so I'm kind of chalked on this one. Virginia versus Florida State, and with Florida State pulling it out, I like the way they've been playing. They've dominated so many ACC teams, and then they kind of had some inconsistent losses in the middle of there. And I'm kind of expecting them to put a 3-game stretch together to win the ACC title. And with that being said, I think a dark horse for me, I picked them halfway through the year, even when they were struggling, but UNC, they rebound well, they defend well, they just are so inconsistent from 3. But, I mean, maybe they can put it together. They have a great coach, obviously. So I think that's probably my dark horse out of the ACC.
Ooh, I like that. I would put my dark horse as Syracuse just because that zone defense really can throw a wrench into people's offense. And if you don't going to have a great offense, you better have a great defense to back it up with. So I'm going to go Syracuse.
Sure. Yeah, Syracuse is one of those teams that if they make March Madness, they can make some noise because, yes, all these ACC teams see it twice a season, but when you get into March and you're playing teams outside of the ACC, they don't see that all year, and they're just kind of caught off guard. Even when you watch it on tape, it's hard to game plan against it. So keep an eye on them to make a little run, maybe squeeze in an at-large bid. And that will wrap up the ACC.